All right, good evening, everybody. Link in the description. I know it sounds cliche, but if you like the content, there's a subscribe button. Anyhow, let's get into it. I know this shit's been old news, but every now and then, old news just loves to resurface. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a swimmer who refuses to stay silent after losing NCAA final spot. So she stepped onto the pool, closing out her senior year in the 500-yard freestyle. So what happened? This particular woman, not Lia Thomas, but the biological one, finished 17th, one place short, and that spot went to Penn's Lia Thomas, a biological male competing in the women's division. So with that wording right there, it doesn't say Lia Thomas actually won that whole thing. But obviously, this was back when you had basically had to tell the majority to fucking bend over backwards for the extreme minority. Shocking, unsafe. We've seen that before. Well, I'm guessing Thomas was still fully intact. So yeah, they got the picture of her holding the trophy, finishing first, probably getting booed. And that's the problem that I have, with the left. They, well, not everybody on the left, but just like, the extreme, like they expect the whole world to bend down, bend over backwards. It's analogous to a vegan going to a steakhouse and saying, damn, you gotta have some vegan options. I'm sure some steakhouses do, but you get my point, right? I was a vegan myself. If they had it, they had it. If they didn't, I went elsewhere. I didn't make a big stink about it. And I must confess, I'll say I was like the so-called imperfect one, meaning I'll flat out say it. My parents, they raise chickens, and chickens produce eggs. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'd use those eggs, and I would still call that vegan in my books. Because it's my fucking world, and I get to be whatever the fuck I want. Because, well, one, I see the chickens, they're behaving like chickens. Plenty of room to roam around and not shoved in little crates. Well, fuck it. They weren't being harmed. They'll lay them anyways. I mean, no, that, in the technical sense would make me, a vegetarian. But hell with it, Enough about me. And of course, there's the absence, of discussing about it. And that's going to raise a whole nother question, which I've seen, does, do trans women and women's sports ruin them? Do they actually help them, actually evolve? Because records have been broken, long before any transgendered athletes, were allowed to compete. All right. So the swimmer was like, yes, I'm 5'10", the female swimmer. But obviously, Thomas was taller and stronger. And that's where it gets fucked up. Like someone says they're trans and they're intact, they can get away with it. But if a regular dude walks in there, they're getting taken out in handcuffs. So that's where it gets to be fucking dicey. And yeah, we've all seen the video where Thomas wins, then 3 seconds later, the second place one wins, and then everybody cheers for the second place. Now, obviously, as far as I know, Thomas is not allowed to compete in the Olympics. Okay, they never heard back, but again, this was also during the Biden administration. I don't want to say that has anything to do with that, but it does correlate. But keep in mind, this whole pronoun thing was surfacing during the first Trump term and before. And again, it's when it comes to sports, it's definitely biology. For certain sports, like swimming is one of them, weightlifting, MMA, boxing. I mean, I haven't seen any transgender female boxers. They were the two intersex ones in the Olympics. Which that's an outlier, and I don't think either one of those two athletes asked for that. They didn't ask to fucking be the center of controversy just because of what they were born with or how they were born. So those who I kind of feel bad for in a way. I mean, they were born the way they were. And it was basically up to the Olympic Committee, to decide what the fuck they do. Decide what the fuck to do. And obviously, Olympic boxing, you don't get points for knocking the person out. It's basically Olympic boxing is basically like sport karate or taekwondo, where you get a point where you hit somebody in a certain area, and same thing with fencing. I know, transgender NASCAR drivers. Anyhow, moving forward. And that is definitely a topic of debate, because yes, a trans female athlete is not going to win every single thing, but we have yet to see a trans male athlete dominate the men's division in whatever, weightlifting, MMA, boxing. I mean, there was that one boxer. I think there's a couple out there. That one trans man boxer, he won one fight, and then another fight he got taken out in 27 seconds. And the other one won one, lost two. You haven't really heard anything more about them. They haven't tried to go pro or anything like that, not that I know of. But yeah, this was definitely something worth revisiting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think I'm just fucking digging up something that has largely been forgotten about with all the other shit going on? Anyhow, I'll talk to you.